See, this is what I got to deal with. Look at this. Hey guys, welcome back. Steve here with Six Star Automotive. Today I'm going to talk about 6 repairs you probably can expect to perform at some point living here in North Idaho. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, and join me as we talk about these 6 repairs. So living in Idaho for the last 13 or whatever years it is now, I've seen some pretty common repairs that we've had to perform on Subarus. Today we're going to go over 6 of them. The number 1 repair you can expect in North Idaho, especially if you live on dirt roads and up in the mountains, sway bar end links and bushings. Sway bars, as you can see here, are steel rods that connect your suspension from one side to the other. Sway bars are there to stabilize the suspension and prevent what's called body roll. Body roll is the term used to describe the inertial forces that are in play while a vehicle is driving. While it's going straight, it wants to keep going straight. If you turn, the vehicle still wants to keep going straight. So if you turn left, it's going to rock to the right, and if you turn right, it's going to rock to the left. So the bars are designed to lock the two together, so that way when it tries to go one way, that bar twists and pulls the other side down and prevents the whole body from rocking to one side. So if you can imagine how much force is applied to these links, which are out of frame. No, they're not. Yeah, right here, good. So you can imagine the amount of force that's applied to these links and these bushings that are out of frame is pretty massive. So if you're going down washboard all the time and they're just going down the road and going up mountains and hitting potholes and all that kind of stuff, you're going to really put a lot of strain on these joints and it's going to cause them to wear out. The rubber inside of that bushing is going to kind of collapse, leaving a bigger space, so the rod kind of bounces around in there and causes a kind of a thudding, clunking sound while you're going over bumps. Same thing with the links. It's more of a metallic sound with the links, but same thing. Go hit this kind of click, 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 while you're going over bumps, and that's relatively annoying. Nothing really necessarily safety-wise unless they break. Then this, as you can see, there's some pretty sensitive bits kind of around here. So we don't want to let these guys break, but yeah, most of the time it's just noise. So just so you know, you're going to have sway bars in the front, in the front, and in the back. So you'll have 2 sets of bushings and 2 sets of links, but plan on those guys. Number 2, ball joints. Let's take a look. So this is your front suspension right here. And you can see this is your knuckle assembly, the lower control arm, and where the control arm and the knuckle meet, which allows it to turn, is the ball joint. In this case, Subaru uses a pinch type ball joint, which is a good design, not necessarily bad, but it does pose a pretty serious problem when it comes to trying to take that bolt out of there. So the uninitiated technician to Northern Idaho will just grab that bolt like you normally would and zap it trying to take it off. It'll shear that bolt right off, and then you'll have to drill right through the knuckle in order to get that bolt out of there and try to replace it with a new one. Total huge hassle. My guys and I have devised a way to get that bolt out of there without it breaking, even if it's corroded down to about half of its normal thickness. It's a total hassle, and it takes a bit more time, but it's a lot better than breaking that bolt off in that knuckle. We keep a fair amount of these ball joints in stock. We use the 3.5 version, which is the same ball joint that Subaru used when they made them originally. I make sure to use really high quality parts when I'm doing this kind of stuff, obviously for your safety, but also because I have a 4-year, 48,000 mile warranty on every repair like this that I do. So number 3, while we're still here, you have no idea how hard it is to say that. Number 3, while we're still here, control arm bushings. So this is actually a bad example. This car has the control arm bushings that almost never fail, but the pretty much all the models after this had what's called compliance type bushings. They're like circular discs that have a rod or a bolt going down the center, and that bushing twists like this as the control arm goes up and down. It eventually tears and separates. As you can imagine, to stop this vehicle, the force goes from the body to the bushing to the control arm to the knuckle to the brakes, and then is released as heat. But if it can't get through this bushing effectively, it's going to rock that bushing, which is going to move your tires. Also, it will affect your alignment, so your tires can wear pretty funny, and we don't want to go through expensive tires any more than we have to. Now let's move on to number 4, oil leaks. Oil leaks like these, unfortunately, are all too common. Not so much in the newer ones as the older ones. The newer ones tend to have leaks for other reasons, but the older ones, yeah, they leak pretty good. So plan on having us give you some recommendations for oil leaks. I guess the most common would be obviously head gasket, valve covers, cam seals, and the oil pump. On Subarus 13 and newer, they went to a timing chain engine, and they had different oil leaks. They had oil leaks from the valve covers, from the timing covers, and from the cam towers, and that's a nasty one. In order to reseal the cam towers in those, you have to remove the engine from the vehicle, remove the timing cover, all the timing components, the valve cover, the cam shafts, and then the cam tower, and then you can reseal that part. It's a pretty big job, but usually not necessary. There was only a couple of them where there was a problem with manufacturing that caused not enough silicone to be in the right spot. And Subaru actually took care of a lot of those, but most of them are out of warranty now. I mean, and the newer ones kind of tend to have some oil leaks too, but not usually that bad.
You like my dress?
Who wants to look at my kid? See, this is what I got to deal with. Look at this. Number 5, catalytic converters. If you've ever owned a Subaru, you've probably had the dreaded P0420 code at some point or another. I mean, I think it's probably a combination of the flat engine with the oil consumption, maybe lack of oil changes, and it's never a good day. You can take a look at my catalyst video to explain why. At some point or another, you should plan on putting a catalytic converter in there. The problem with newer Subarus, and pretty much all new cars now, is that they don't just turn the check engine light on anymore. They turn on multiple lights at the same time. I'm going to make another video about that probably next time that'll explain why they do that. That brings us to number 6. Not very far off of the catalytic converter, but it's exhaust heat shields. If you have a Subaru, you're going to have rattles from the exhaust at one point or another. They just, unfortunately, living here in North Idaho again, I think it's the salt gets up in there, kind of as you can see here. These used to be bolts and nuts. Now they're just pyramids of iron oxide. So on some vehicles, we have some ways of kind of manipulating this stuff to make it stop rattling, but on the newer ones, unfortunately, I've tried everything in the book. I've tried wrapping the exhaust and putting the heat shields back on. I've tried tack welding. I've tried all kinds of stuff, and I've never had it really work. Really, the only way to fix the new ones is to replace these heat shields. And usually they're around the catalyst, so that's not something you want to leave off. Catalysts actually need to stay hot in order to function. So if you leave the heat shields off, it's not that you're just protecting the other units around the catalyst, but you're keeping the heat in to keep the catalyst functioning. So, it's kind of, they serve a dual purpose. So you really don't want to just get rid of them. There are some heat shields on the cars that, aren't as important as others, and we tend to kind of remove if necessary, but the ones around the catalyst you don't want to play with. Bonus round. So the last thing, again, sticking on the same idea, is just exhaust in general. I mean, this is just all too common. Unfortunately, it usually happens right at the flange, so there's really not much we can do with this. You can't replace the joint very easily, so usually what this means is replacement of both sections of the exhaust that are on both sides of that joint. Again, the issue becomes, what about further down? Because if we're going to replace this part and this part, then this part has to connect somewhere too, and right up here, this flange can be bad too. So you can imagine what's going to happen when I try and take this apart. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, want to see more like it, leave me a comment. I got a lot more like it. Check them out. And remember, you can always come by to experience the 6-star difference for yourself.